I went to the University of Adelaide and I studied mineral geoscience, which is a science degree. So basically, I studied the earth, geology, physics, geochem, chemistry, mathematics, that kind of thing. So yeah, my background's mostly in science. So that's my official, that's like my stamp of approval background. But my educational, I've always been fascinated in the studies of philosophy, life in general, and I'm stumbling my words. I just love reading books. When I was a kid, I used to read a lot of books. So probably there was a point in my life where I was reading a book a day, basically. I think I was reading up to 300 pages a day. I was like reading something like the Bible a week of words. So yeah, I love reading, or I did love reading. And now I'm more of a podcast fiend. I just love a good podcast. And those podcasts range from history podcasts to science. But honestly, the only time I ever got an A+ in my life was history. So I'd say history is probably my best subject overall. The reason why I chose geology and geoscience and environmental science as my degree was because I was going to get into the mining industry. I was fascinated with geology. I was fascinated with paleontology, especially as a kid. But as I got older and as I finished my degree, I was like, I don't want to be in the mines. I kind of just want to do the Adelaide set, because I started the Adelaide set the same year I started my degree. So the Adelaide set kind of blew up. So I was torn between, okay, do I keep doing my degree or do I just focus solely on the Adelaide set? In the end, I decided to do both at the same time, which was extremely difficult. But we got there in the end. We passed everything. So we got my degree and I still have the Adelaide set. So that's good. So yeah, I guess I'm a geoscientist, guys. A little geophysicist. That's basically it. And a keen and a philosopher. I'd call myself the philosopher. All philosophy means is it's ancient Greek for love of life. So I definitely love life. So I would call myself a philosopher. But it's not an official title or anything like that. It's just what I call myself. Yeah. Okay. Well, let's go into this. Let's get into this video.
Group, I guess, come towards a semblance of the truth. So I would say there are 6 main theories that do the rounds when it comes to the behaviour of the current elites.
Okay.
The first one I will call the Britisher frame, which is one that simply says that what we see is just incompetence and human error at the top. That's the Britisher frame. Nothing's planned, everything's just kind of haphazard, yes, minister style.
Okay, so we're going through the idea of incompetence. So the elites are all incompetent and everything is just randomly happening. So that's kind of where we're at right now. And then we're going to go through the total power and control, which is the conspiracy model, conspiracy frame. The emergent behavior, which is the Moldbug frame, which I don't even know what that is. There's the ever greater profits elitism, which is a leftist populist frame. The historical revenge driven by malice desire to enact total humiliation, destruction on enemies, the forbidden text frame. The managerial class must destroy last vestiges of old ruling class to secure their position, the elite theory frame. So that's the oligarchy. And some combination of all of the above, which I think is probably the most likely one. It's probably all the things above is probably what's guiding humanity and who are the elites. So the elites are all of these things.
Incompetence. Number 2 is that the current elites are motivated by total power and control.
So the current elites are motivated by total power and control is one of the frames.
I call the conspiracy frame. The third one is what you might call the Moldbug frame. That is, what we're seeing is emergent behavior that looks like a conspiracy, but in fact is just a kind of naturally emerging organic process. Number 4 is...
Okay, so that's what the Moldbug frame is. The Moldbug frame is things that look like conspiracy but are more like coincidences. So a coincidental theory. So that's the coincidences of life. Oh, wait, my thing's all wrong. Who are the elites? Let me write that. Who are the elites? Dot. God damn.
So what you might call the leftist populist frame, that is that the elites are just driven by ever greater profit. It's all about money at the end of the day in big corporations.
So number 4 is the leftist populist frame, and the leftists love to think that everything is profit driven. So I guess that means I'm a lefty. Yeah, I guess I'm a lefty. If you really think about it, philosophically speaking, I'm a lefty. So all you other lefties out there, leave me alone. I'm on your side, all right? Number 4 is probably the one that speaks to me most, especially during the pandemic. Because all you other lefties out there basically turned into righties. That's right. You defended Big Pharma with your life. They were the most profit-driven people ever. Literally, the pharmaceuticals were, in the pandemic, the most profit-driven people in the entire planet, and you supported them. You lefties are fake lefties. Because a real lefty believes that everything is done purely for greater profit. So, that means the likelihood of safety was probably the lowest on the list. I'm not saying they didn't try to make it safe. Of course they probably did. But they were thinking, how do we make the cheapest, fastest medical product possible, and let's give it out to the masses. And also, you righties, get more educated, because it wasn't the lefties telling you to take a medical product that failed. It was actually the righties, because all those lefties who think they're lefties are actually all righties. They're like a paradox. They're the paradox of the left. They're not real lefties. Because real lefties are actually going against their own ideology and sticking with the elites. Because at frame 4, the leftist populist frame model, they supported during the pandemic. And don't they just support? They went crazy for it. They were like lapping it up. It became their personality. So, interesting to think about that. That's my rant about that. Okay, what's next?
Number 5, what you might call the forbidden text frame, is that the elites are driven by historical revenge, driven by malice, a desire to enact total humiliation and destruction on their historical enemies.
So it's like Game of Thrones style elitism, which is also possible. Well, we're having it in the Middle East, Israel, Palestine, Iran. That could fit definitely in that model. This historical revenge driven by malice is a driver for many wars, as suggested. So the elites that the oligarchs have historical revenge in their frame.
And then number 6 is, I guess you might call the elite theory frame, which is that the managerial class must destroy the last vestiges of the old ruling class to secure their position. So those are 6 different ways of explaining.
So the managerial class must destroy the last vestiges of old ruling classes. So old money versus new money. That's another frame of the elitists. Old money versus new money. Old money is trying to survive, new money trying to conquer the old money. It's a constant cycle. In Adelaide, for example, we had the old money, the old Scottish, the old Masonic families. We had the Benythans, the blah, 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 all those families, right? The Benythans, the Haywoods, blah, blah, blah. Old money, they're trying to survive. They have their assets. New money has come in. The new money tries to take over, and it's a constant battle. Lots of old money has lost their money because of poor economic decisions. And lots of new money has come in and made a great job. And done some cool things, made some billions in this city, for example. So yeah. And obviously the whole thing is, everything in this framework is bottom down what the elites like. And the elites just means the top 1% who hold power, by the way. It's not like this conspiracy word. Elite just means someone who has power. So what is power? Power is the ability to do something. So if I want something to happen, like if I was like, I want to build a big road and I can make it happen, that's a form of power. If I was like, I want to build a road, but it doesn't happen, that's not very powerful, is it? That's just kind of like, I'm a dreamer. So what's the difference between a dreamer and one that has power? A lot, but also you need to be a dreamer to become powerful. So those in power have the ability to make things happen.
The behavior of current global elites. And then, of course, there is the bespoke option of some combination of the above. So you may like, I don't know, 2 and 4, for example, or 3 and 6, or whatever else. They're not all mutually exclusive. While it's obvious that these frames are not mutually exclusive, it strikes me at the basic level that people on the right disagree about which one is fundamental. Clarifying these frames and thinking seriously about which one should be preeminent should help people come together, or at the very least see what they really disagree over. And I think the COOF has thrown a serious curveball into things and left many sides lost.
The COOF, we know what the COOF is. Oh yeah, here it says, the COOF has thrown a serious curve onto things and left many sides lost since it doesn't fit easily into pre-existing narratives. That's true. So maybe the left is still the left, but it's just evolved into becoming part of the oligarchs. So the left of today have become part of the oligarchs. The left of today are part of the oligarchs and a weapon of power for the oligarchs. The oligarchs now use the left as their weapon to maintain power. Typically, the left were always against the oligarchs, but now they seem to be working together, which is under the name of science. So science is the language of the left, and the oligarchs have realized this and gone, okay, well, let's just fund all the science and create bias within the scientific industry so that the left can then be ruled by the oligarchs through the language and linguistics of science that's manufactured by money, driven by profit, and that falls into the fourth framework of the ever greater profits, leftist population frame, which was the narrative of the left. The left were against focusing on pure profits. The scientific industry now is about profit making. The medical industry is about profit making. The pharmaceutical industry is about profit making. The food industry is about profit making. Everything is about profit making. And the little sense of humanity still exists, but it's more of a fallacy. It's more of a myth than an actual driving force. But that doesn't exclude the anomalies of people who are working in these industries who have a genuine desire to do good. Of course there are. I'm sure most people do. But once they enter the oligarchs' machine, all that kind of gets chewed away because the oligarchs have designed the corporate industry to do a fantastic job at destroying your soul. It's a soul-sucking exercise. But interesting to think about. Anyways, let's continue.
Because what's been happening over the pandemic does not easily fit into pre-existing narratives. So there's a bit of disarray, a cat among the pigeons when it comes to that. Now, a sub-consideration of each of these frames is the question of who is actually in charge. And each one of the frames has their own particular answer to this. Let's go through them one by one. Number 1, we have the incompetence frame. That is, the people in charge are just the government.
So the people in charge are just the government. That is the first frame of elitism. We call it the incompetence frame.
Most the government as steered by the civil service. This is what you see in Yes Minister, for example. It's the idea that really the people, it's the bumbling idiot Boris Johnson led by a couple of advisors. It's what you see on the thick of it and nothing else. Okay.
Yep. So there we go. That's the first. That's the first one.
Frame says something like the world is run by secret societies, which may or may not be people like the Rothschilds. Likes of the British royal family.
The British royal family
may or may not be part of a
may or may not
cabal,
satanic,
or they may be lizards or whatever else.
Lizards.
Depending
Ah!
conspiracists that you're listening to.
Sorry,
And,
this is also
whether
funny.
you like it or not, these people are definitely part of some of these circles that we run in. You see people constantly talking about these groups.
Okay.
And
So let's have a chat here with the Adelaide audience. I'm sure a lot of us fall into the conspiracy frame. So we're thinking the elites have the conspiracy frame. There is a society of secret elites, and we believe that because we know that it's better to be secretive to be powerful, because it's hard to have a revolution against secretive people, because it's hard to point out who those people are. So it makes sense. And then you got the satanic holy war stuff, the cabal, the lizard theories, all the blah blah blah. I mean, it all gets tied in very nicely in this little conspiracy bow.
so it's a frame that is in the mix. Number 3, we have the Moldbugian frame, in which, of course, the decisive faction in control is the cathedral, the media and academia, who set the direction and the ideas for all the other factions, including the politicians and the business leaders. Moldbug thinks of the cathedral like the brain in the machine, not doing the bidding of the leaders, but actually controlling the leaders. Okay?
So that's to do with the academics, the scientists, which we talked about, pandemic, for example, conspiracies. Actually, it's not conspiracies, it's more the utilization of the scientific industry to carry out acts of power.
Number 4, in the leftist populist frame, the decisive faction are, of course, the corporations and the oligarchs who put profits before people. Everything comes down to money.
So there we go, profits before people. During the pandemic, the left abandoned their oligarchical viewpoint about the pharmacies because they were in such fear of a virus. They were like, no, we actually love the oligarchs. We love the big pharma. We're going to totally trust them, and we're going to take this thing in the name of science. In the name of oligarchical science. That's right. Oligarchical science. The oligarchy ruled the science of that day. So the left are now technically righties.
When you're looking at things through that leftist populist frame. Number 5, we have the forbidden text frame, of course, and the decisive faction are, the you-know-whos, or some kind of power group within the you-know-whos. Then, in the elite theory frame, the decisive faction are what Pareto calls the non-ruling elite. This is similar in a sense to Moldbug's cathedral, but the directionality is a little bit different in so much as they work in the service of the ruling elite and then post hoc rationalize them. As such, if the ruling elite changes, the non-ruling elite will also change, and vice versa. So in Moldbug, the cathedral is the brain.
Okay.
Whereas in elite theory, the cathedral is more like a kind of defense lawyer.
Defense lawyer.
Than the brain.
Okay. By the way, I could be getting this all wrong. This is my interpretation of understanding academic agents' teachings here.
In other words, if the power regime says jump, the cathedral says how high. Whereas in the Moldbug conception, the cathedral says jump and the power regime says how high.
Okay.
See, it's
I get that.
subtle but very, very key difference between
Moldbug framing.
How people like Pareto and Mosca thought of it and how Moldbug thinks of it.
Okay.
Anyway, the fact that people differ on who exactly is in charge as an unstated assumption leads to all sorts of misunderstandings and disagreements, even with the very phrase elite. When I say elite, I have a particular group of people in mind, in the elite theory frame. But when...
Elite theory frame. So he's talking about in an economic sense, not in a conspiratorial sense. Which I'm also talking about as well. By the way, guys, my Kanye West Yay merch just arrived. The shirt was the first piece to arrive. So this is the Kanye West's Vultures shirt. And yeah, it's kind of cool. It's got the same cut as like a priest kind of shirt. It's really comfortable. I wanted to put that in there because, yeah, it looks dope. Let me get up and I'll show you 1 second. Can you see that? Yeah, I thought it It's probably my favorite shirt now, to be honest. It looks pretty cool.
People hear me say that, they may be thinking, well, I'm talking about the British royal family and, certain old money European families and things like this. Whereas I don't really have those people in mind at all. So it leads to a lot of misunderstandings and disagreements.
Okay.
The prospect of a revolutionary action, that is, action that's going to lead to regime change, on the right is therefore forestalled by the fact that people do not even agree on who is being overthrown. You know, a lot of people on the right like to have these ideas of the puppet masters. You know, it's the front cover of the Kerry Bolton book, Revolution from Above, but they don't agree on who the puppet masters are. And I think this is a very, very important question to try to come to the bottom of, even if it means having potentially embarrassing disagreements with people. Because the trouble with these frames is that each of the people who adopt them think that their frame is obvious. But
It's true. Everyone's perspective is their perspective, so they think that their frame is the right frame. The hardest thing in life is understanding the other frames of other humans, including your friends and family and loved ones and your own community.
It's only obvious to them. It's not obvious to everybody else. So I think that, you know, it's time to maybe hash out some of these fundamentals again and to restate the arguments as to, well, who are the elite and why? Even if it leads to people saying, oh, hold on a second, that's very blue-pilled or whatever. It's important, I think, for everybody to be clear on who we mean. Otherwise, what hope is there of fighting these people when you don't even know who they are?
Facts.
Anyway, I better get ready.
All right, guys. I'm logging off the stream. I'm going to edit this video and I'll post this on Instagram and YouTube. So thank you for tuning in. Thanks for being here. And love you very much. Thank you.